The Legend of Zelda has been my favorite video game series for most of my life. And I'm not unique in this. I've met many people who hold the same reverence for this long-running series as I do. For some, the appeal comes from exploration, for others, the combat and magic, or the whimsical characters and story. My appreciation for all these elements was clear from the very first time I played Link's Awakening on the original Game Boy back in the mid-90s. Every Zelda game I've played since just radiates fun, and gives the player that feeling of, this is something special. As we approach springtime and feverishly await details on the coming sequel to the latest Zelda entry, Breath of the Wild, I wanted to do something special, to look back on the game and highlight some of my absolute favorite moments. The times that left me in awe and appreciation for a world that felt so alive that I could almost feel myself disappearing into it. This feeling is made all the more possible through the ease of capturing images on the Nintendo Switch via the share button, and with the in-game camera Link receives shortly after his journey begins. And I love this feature. From the humble beginnings in Majora's Mask, which had a pictograph that could only store one black and white photo, the Zelda games have been dabbling more and more into the photography realm. In Breath of the Wild, it's an incredibly finely tuned feature, and one that gave me the ability to capture some incredible memories. The following moments are centered around quiet exploration and taking in the gorgeous atmosphere all around the player, about observing the interactions and personality of the characters that live in Hyrule, and inferring deeper narrative threads than what lies plainly visible on the surface. They're a celebration of what is widely considered one of the best games of the generation, and I couldn't agree more. I had a hard time narrowing this list down, and I'm sure it could extend into the many dozens, but for sake of this video, these are my top 10 beautiful moments from playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. One of my favorite things about each new Zelda is seeing the different interpretations of recurring places, such as the famous Kakariko Village. This particular version is full of fascinating characters and stories. Among the villagers, the story of Dorian and his daughters Coco and Katla is my favorite. Originally a member of the infamous Yiga clan, Dorian married in a secret ceremony and deserted the clan so that he might start a family. Shortly after, they had 2 daughters. Dorian's wife would care for Coco and Katla, gathering them beneath the shade of a tree near their house and telling them stories of faraway places. But this newfound peace was not to last. The Yiga clan discovered their hiding place, and in their fury killed Dorian's wife, though he tried to protect her. Now every morning he sits with the little ones under the same tree outside their home, just as their mother did. The eldest daughter, Coco, spends most of her time looking after her younger sister, Katla, and trying her best to fill the role of their dearly departed mother. Of course, the Yiga clan's presence is still a menace in Dorian's life, and you, the player, get to play a role in that final chapter. Another one of my favorite reoccurring places, the Lost Woods, has varied a fair amount in its depiction from game to game, while I certainly enjoy them all in their own way. The Lost Woods in Breath of the Wild is the only one that managed to make me feel both intimidated and wildly curious in its mystery. When I first arrived at the Lost Woods, I remember standing at the mouth of the forest, gazing into the hostile blanket of dense fog, with no clear indication for how to navigate this wooden maze, or what could possibly lie on the other side. And for a long time I stood in silence, holding my torch high above my head. And then slowly I saw the embers from my flame drift away, almost beckoning me forward. It gave me this great sense of discovering a deeper mystery on my own. Moments like this are very rare in games these days, but very present in Breath of the Wild. This one's a small detail, but definitely worth mentioning, especially if you haven't noticed it. Near the end of the game, the player will find themselves searching for Link's secret and final memory, leading to the remnants of a battle fought 100 years ago where Link perished in Zelda's arms, protecting her to his dying breath, and Zelda's true power finally emerges. century has passed, and though most have forgotten, this site still serves as a memorial to Link's final battle. Numerous blades overtaken with rust and decay sit thrust into the ground in tribute to this heroic last stand. When I first stumbled upon this spot, I was surprised and satisfied that the development team took the time to make this wonderful addition to the world. Ever since Ocarina of Time in 1998, Zelda games have always had a wonderful sense of atmosphere from their day and night cycles. Finally, players could explore a three-dimensional open world, stop and look up into the sky, and watch the evening dissolve into night. The world around you goes on, pulling you into a level of immersion that not many had seen before. Being able to quietly watch as the world and its inhabitants stir with life is something Breath of the Wild does incredibly well, particularly here. Untouched by the Great Calamity, Hateno Village enjoys peaceful travelers and bountiful harvests, as well as offering a wonderfully satisfying respite for the players to relax, shop, meet the wonderful characters, and even find a place to call home. This sort of place is a hallmark of all Zelda games, and Breath of the Wild does not disappoint. Most of the time when I sort of run out of things to do in the game, if I'm bored of looking for Korok seeds or have finished all the side quests, I'll just wander around in Hateno Village and feel wonderfully swept up in the world. And maybe this isn't something for everyone, but I appreciate the hell out of these things in Zelda games. Halfway up the eastern hill overlooking Hateno Village, you discover a woman sitting alone on a bench. Her name is Rillera, and all day she watches the windmills she co-owns with her husband Rhodes. All night, he does the same. Rhodes and Rillera are a newly married couple who run the wind-powered flour mill, which provides food for the valley. Rillera was born and raised in a fishing village to the south and moved north to live with her beloved after the wedding. Now as they work in shifts to run the business, she spends most of her time alone on the hill, thinking of her father back home. And though she spends the time alone, she remains in high spirit. And at the end of each day, while changing shifts, for one small moment she and her husband exchange a longing glance and continue on their way. It's understated, it's subtle, it's wonderful, and makes me yearn to know more of their story. That on the one hand may seem shallow and undeveloped, but to me, it's that perfect balance of telling you a story while leaving room for the mind and imagination to take over and wonder. "100 years ago, during the Great Calamity, Hateno Village was the only place in Hyrule untouched by the onslaught of the Legion of Guardians. It owes this miraculous protection to Fort Hateno and those who manned it, down at the mouth of the Fir Valley. This fort stood as a last bastion of civilization against an ocean of malice from Ganon. As the army of machines swarmed these walls, the defense of the fort fell to a handful of local soldiers, men and women who farmed these lands for generations, who hunted these woods, who were buried in this soil. They dug in their heels and fought to the death. It was a violent, vicious battle. Large sections of the stone were blown clear away from the battlements, with rubble lying hundreds of feet away, and with the Guardians reducing the defenses to rubble, the garrison reinforced it with timber from behind the wall. We don't know how many soldiers died during this battle, but it is likely that few survived in this heroic defense. In the northern stretches of Hyrule, among the Tabantha frontier, lies the whimsical village of the Rito people, a spirited, bird-like race whose rich culture cherishes the mountain wilderness, competitive archery, and music. These creatures first appeared in The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker with a clear reference to Zora lineage, and among the Rito people is a family with 5 young daughters. When Link first arrives in the Rito village, they are distraught in various ways and distracted from practicing for an important choral performance just a few days away. Once Link becomes trusted by the Rito, and after spending enough time with the young ones, he helps the daughters sing together as one and unlocks an ancient shrine, much to their surprise. Moments like these are pretty effective at creating a bond between the player and an NPC. So much so where I would find myself strolling sometimes the quiet walkways of the village at night, keeping watch over the slumbering characters that I came to know and form a bond with. Also, the village design reminds me of the classic film Hook with the Lost Boys, and I really appreciate that. No Zelda game is without a measure of quirky charm, and Riju, the child ruler of the Gerudo, has this in spades. She's a headstrong leader for her people and holds deep reverence for her departed mother, who passed away during the calamity 100 years ago and passed this position onto her at a very young age. The Gerudo are a hardened people obsessed with battle, and so Riju maintains a stern resolve. Though behind closed doors, she allows her child side some opulence. Having been undeniably robbed of her proper childhood, every night she returns to her room, filled with a secret collection of stuffed desert seals, eager to play, if only by herself, and afterwards falls asleep, dreaming of her mother. This sort of loss of innocence, loss of childhood, and rising to perform a duty, to me harkens back to Ocarina of Time when Link loses his childhood to go on and protect Hyrule. Again, a recurring theme in the game, and one that I think is told so effectively. The first few weeks after Breath of the Wild released, before the wealth of in-game secrets were posted to blogs and gaming websites, it truly felt like we were back before the internet existed, when discoveries and theories of hidden secrets were passed via word of mouth, and each person you talked to would excitedly share what wonder they had stumbled upon. I'll venture to guess that most of you feel this way as well, and it describes this next moment perfectly. Rumors on the western slopes of central Hyrule speak of the fabled Lord of the Mountain, a mysterious spirit that watches over the land. Some say it's the soul of a sage whose name is long forgotten. My journey brought me to the summit of Satori Mountain, investigating a strange blue mist, and discovered a gathering of otherworldly creatures circled around a majestic beast with 4 glowing eyes and 2 horns in the shape of golden ferns. With a great bit of stealth, Link mounted the steed and guided it cautiously down the mountain. Sadly, no stable keeper would take the Lord of the Mountain in, fearing the wrath of some vengeful curse. I can't say I blame him. I only witnessed this one time in my hundreds of hours playing Breath of the Wild. I haven't seen it a second time. I don't know what triggers it, if it's random or scheduled. I was on the hills overlooking Kakariko at day's end, when one of the male villagers ran up the hill, not to engage Link with some menial side quest, but to gaze at the swirling phantom around the castle and the wonderful sunset beyond, as if to draw an ounce of hope from the day's last moments. Or a similar time on beginning my 3rd playthrough, when I happened upon the old man on top of Mount Hylia, and in an exchange I'd never seen before, he and Link watched the beautiful sunrise over the mountains on the horizon, and he said, "There are few things in life filled with as much mystery and wonder as the moments before a sunrise." This was incredible, and an excellent summation of this list: mystery and wonder. I think it's important to highlight the incredible sense of discovery this game gives you, of finding unique moments, remarkable player agency, and the feeling that the NPCs who live in this world have their own hopes, dreams, and desires. A perfect way to capture my journey. Exciting, mysterious, visually striking, and 1,000 hidden things waiting to be found. I loved playing this game, and I have no doubt I will remember these moments for many years to come. Thank you so much for letting me share them with you, and if you've played Breath of the Wild, please let me know in the comments a favorite memory of yours. I'd love to hear it, as well as if you share any from this list. Hang around my channel and check out a few other videos, like an hour-long BioShock Infinite ambient and music piece that's the perfect way to unwind or use for studying. Actually, I tried to make it an hour long. It's 45 minutes, but it's close. But there is an hour-long Tony Stark workshop ambient piece, which I'm happy with as well.
Jarvis, drop my needle.
Again, thank you for watching.